Boy, do we have some good ones for you today, folks. We've got stories of the paranormal, drones. We've got another one starting to form inside of someone's house, and one that's done quite a bit of destruction to somebody's efforts in providing for themselves. I don't want to give the spoiler away, but we've got a few stories here sent in from readers. And folks, I want to let you know up front, if you've had any experiences with anything odd, such as the supernatural, paranormal, UFOs, aliens, abductions, cryptids like Bigfoot, Sasquatches, anything, and you'd like to share your stories, you can email them to us here at the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. You must give us permission to use your story however we deem fit. And if you want your name to be known, let us know. But if you wish to remain anonymous, let us know that as well, and we won't tell anybody who you are, okay? So let's get on to the first one because I've got several for you. This comes from Sheila. Sheila writes, "Hi, Kevin. You have my permission to use my story. My husband is an avid hunter and doesn't miss a season of deer hunting. This year, he had an experience that has left him speechless. He decided to hunt on some state conservation property in very rural Missouri. He was walking out of the woods shortly after dark, after a long day hunting, and didn't have his headlamp on because the trail was lit up from the moon. He started to feel like he was being watched, and the hair on the back of his neck was standing up when his rifle, which was hanging over his shoulder, went off. This was impossible because his safety was on and his hands were nowhere near the trigger. He knew something was there with him and that he just couldn't see it. He started praying out loud to Jesus and walked very quickly the rest of the way to his truck with his rifle in his hand. He's never had anything like this happen to him, and he's been hunting for over 45 years. He's not a big conspiracy person, so for him to admit he's experienced something supernatural was a big deal. I love your channel. Thanks, Sheila." Sheila, thank you for sending us in your husband's story. Appreciate the fact that you love the channel. Keep watching. And folks, it's stories like this that keep the channel alive. That would be creepy. Absolutely. Now we're going on to somebody known as Victory Phantom. And this was pretty much a response to the most recent video I've made before this one. It was about maids, the medically induced deaths that they're doing up in Canada under their socialized healthcare program. And they're doing this in some European countries, and it's legal in 10 states and Washington, D.C. So they write, "Maids is even worse than you think. They are willing to murder a Canadian for any reason they see fit. Oh, you're homeless? You get maids. Oh, you're broke? You get maids. Oh, you have debt? You get maids. Oh, you're disabled? You get maids. Oh, you're a veteran? You get maids. Better yet, if you're depressed or a child with abnormalities, they will kill you. This is all fact up here in Canada. Our doctors will pressure you to kill yourself." A solid story of this happening up here in Canada now is of a female disabled veteran who needed a stair lift to be installed in her home. She was pressured by our health authority to up and kill herself instead of just installing the chair lift for her. Instead of installing a device that cost X amount of money, they would go, "Hey, let's kill you instead so we can get a payout from your death." The government gets a personal payout from her Siestque V Trust, which is billions from your birth certificate. Guys, I'm an American in the U.S. and I'm not so familiar with what's going on up in Canada with anything, but that's creepy. That sounds very scary. Just wanted to share that with you. This person sent it. Now, this one comes with a picture. Okay, this next story. And we've heard from this contributor before, and if you've been watching for at least the last 5 or 6 months, this is going to ring a bell. But she actually got photo evidence of a drone/orb that was beginning to almost form in her home, but then went outside and just let me read it. It's short, and I want you to see the picture. "Hey, Kevin. If you go back to the beginning of our conversation, I was the person who saw a drone in my house last fall. Today I was sitting in my living room and out of nowhere a blue light started shimmering in the corner, almost like something was trying to materialize. It traveled through the door to my backyard. I grabbed my phone and ran outside to try to film it. I caught the shimmering ball over the trees. If you watch the video, you can see it right after I zoom in and move the phone. It was really hard to see through the lens, but very visible by the naked eye. I did not believe at the time I was filming that I caught it, and it wasn't until I watched the video back that I realized I did. It was not a plane or a bird. This was a shimmering ball that kept zooming around. I'm attaching a zoomed in image so you can see it better. WTF is this? Feel free to use it, but please do not use my name in this one. I don't need people thinking I'm crazy. Thanks for putting the word out there about all that is happening. All right, so here's a picture of what she captured. Check it out. Wow. You know, so for all you naysayers out there who say, yeah, well, where's the picture proof? Well, there it was for you. And we got more pictures coming up, too. With this next story, some pics of the paranormal. Yeah, I'm excited to make this video this morning. Got all these pics to share with good stories. So this one comes from Frankie Costner down in North Carolina, neighboring state to us here in Virginia. Frankie writes, "Hey, Kevin. I'm the girl from North Carolina that heard the rocket sound on my porch while smoking a cigarette. What you don't know is I'm also a paranormal investigator. I love to go to the graveyard near my house, and they love it when I come to visit. They love to talk. I've captured many things there, and I thought I'd send you a couple. You have my permission to use my name and my story if you'd like. Oh, I also am talking to a man that was murdered not too long ago. His wife is buried there. She was buried before him. I just want to get his side of the story and find out what he and his wife think about it. Well, enough for now. I'm not very tech smart, so I hope you get the pictures of the spirits that love to talk to me when I come." Frankie Costner. All right, here's the images. Frankie, I did get your images. They came through. Have a look at the ghosts that Frankie picks up. Isn't that amazing? You saw them. They looked like orbs. We've had a lot of experiences with those around here, going back for years. We've been here, it'll be 9 years this fall that we've been on this property. And experiences with orbs is something that started happening pretty early on once we got here. And then, of course, I found out later about all the deaths that have taken place in our house. It's 23 years old this year. On the property. Some of them very tragic. There's bodies of 3 little girls that died from the Spanish influenza in the room I use as my office. They're buried in the woods right over there. And then there were some deaths that were quite traumatic, one of which I've not talked yet about, and I won't until certain people are 18. Yeah, it's crazy. Hate to leave you hanging, but anyway, let's get on to the next one. This one, man. I've heard a story very similar to this out of Florida. I'm wondering if this is the same guy. So I wore my Key West hat, one of the Key West hats I got down there in honor of this gentleman and what he's gone through. He writes, "Kevin, I've been watching your channel for years. You actually, without knowing it, motivated me to leave the rat race, or what I heard you refer to as the soul trap." Hold on, folks. I want to make sure I don't trigger people by wiping my nose on my sleeve. I try to bring tissue when I can. All right, so this guy's saying that I've motivated him to leave the soul trap, or the rat race. He continues, "I'm a 50-year-old man, happily divorced, with 3 grown kids who have nothing to do with me. That's another story for another time, but I know I'm not special in that regard because there are so many men, especially in America, who are in the same boat. And it's not so much by our own doing as it is the poisonous lies our babies' mamas put into their heads while they're growing up. Again, another story for another time. Know all about it, brah. Anyway, about 10 years ago, I realized the way I was living was leading me to a losing situation. I owned my own painting company. I had 3 full-time employees. We all worked very hard and had a hard time keeping up with business because things were so good. But here's the deal, Kevin. I got to keep very little money that I made, very little of the money that I made. I remember that last full year I had my business. After paying my employees a living wage and all other overhead, I cleared just under $200K in profits. I was ecstatic. However, after I satisfied the IRS and child support, which went up because my ex knew when I was having a good year, and she'd take me back to court during the good years to get the judge to give her an increase in child support. But she made sure not to take me to court during the bad years to have it lowered, and I never messed with it because I was too busy trying to just keep up. I had very little left. Hey, I can relate. I came to the realization that the only way I could win this game was to forfeit it. I'd inherited a vacant 2-acre lot outside of town, which bordered the national forest, so I decided that with what money the IRS and the ex-wife let me keep, I would construct a yurt, and then when the kids were 18, which they all are now, I would bow out of this soul trap and live off the land. I've been doing so for the past 6 years, and my God, has life been so much better. No, I'm not making $200K a year anymore, but what the hell is the use in doing that if you just have to give it all away? I built such a book of business over the years that I take enough small one-man paint jobs that I'm able to supplement myself with any monetary needs I have. Sometimes less is more, brother, and I've been coming to that realization here in the last couple of years and coming to it again, getting my tax stuff ready for my CPA. Oh, how I digress. He continues, now, here's the part that's important in regard to what's going on now. I live in northern Florida. I will not say where because I don't want any unexpected company, although clearly I have already had some. When you were in Key West last month and you kept referring to Florida as ground zero as far as this deadly fog and spraying went, you could not have been more right. Kevin, I grow nearly 1 acre worth of vegetables every year, and I eat and or can everything I grow. I've done this successfully for half a dozen years out here now on my tiny little spot of heaven, and I was planning on doing it again this year, but then one night last week I was visited by a handful of those bastard drones that clearly had other plans for me. I was in a deep sleep around 2 a.m. when suddenly I was wide awake. It's like I had some sort of internal alarm that had gone off, and as soon as I woke up, I knew that something was wrong. I sat up in bed, looked around my one-room living space. My yurt is only 18 feet in diameter, but I went the minimalist route when I made this life change, so I have more room than I need. But I saw nothing out of the ordinary. Knowing in my soul something was not right, I stepped outside, and that's when I saw them. 6 drones. Yes, 6 drones. And they were slowly hovering over my garden space that I'd recently tilled and planted all the cold weather vegetables that can be grown this time of year, like broccoli, lettuce, and peas. All of the drones had a chartreuse light glowing on their bottoms, which enabled me to see some sort of mist or spray that was coming out of them. I thought, WTF is going on here? And I think I might have even said these words aloud. I began slowly walking toward my garden area, and as if they had eyes to see and a brain to think, these things started slowly rising, and they formed into a V-type formation, kind of like when you see geese flying. And once they reached about 10 feet off the ground, they took off flying, tightly holding that formation so fast that they were gone in an instant, and it was as if they'd never been there in the first place. The next day, I'd forgotten this even happened until I stepped outside. I looked over toward my garden area, and the ground was smoldering, as if a fire had recently been put out. All of a sudden, what had happened the night before came back to me, and I quickly walked over to my garden spot. I looked down, and sure enough, on the ground was a white foamy substance that from a distance looked like ash, but when touched, which I did with the end of a stick to be safe, was clearly foam. I packed some of this up into a Ziploc bag and took it into town. There's a lab there associated with a major university here in Florida, and it was my intention to have it tested. Someone actually came out to speak with me about it, and when I told them my story, they said, "Oh yeah, the mysterious drones that were spotted over Jersey last fall." And I said yes, with excitement. And they rolled their eyes and said, "My brother-in-law is one of those nutty conspiracy theorists. I had to listen to this nonsense over the holidays." He then handed me my bagged soil sample back and said, "We're not wasting our time here with conspiracies. You'll need to go somewhere else." And with that, he turned and walked away and went right back through the double doors with the sign that read "Employees Only" that he'd walked out of to meet me only a minute before. Kevin, I do not know what's going on, but I don't think I should eat anything out of my garden this year, and that is if anything even grows. I'm convinced there is someone or a group of someones out there who do not want people like us being self-sufficient. I think they are really trying to corral us all into their 15-minute cities where we will be entirely dependent upon them for all our needs. These are certainly scary times. You have my permission to use this story on your YouTube channel and to put into your True Haunting series, which, by the way, I've read every one, as well as all your books. The Lunatic is my favorite because you nailed the dark side of the woke agenda. But please do not share my name with anyone. Clearly, someone knows who I am and where I live, hence how they sent the drones here. And the last thing I want is them knowing that I'm trying to sound the alarm. Thanks for all you do, Kevin. Anonymous. Mr. Anonymous, thank you for your email. And FYI, he mentioned the Lunatic. I do have about a dozen print copies of these left in our Etsy store, the link of which is in the description box below. And if you purchase it from our Etsy store, I will send you a personally autographed copy. I'll write you a little inscription in here. Or if you prefer Amazon, these are available in print and Kindle. This was actually the #1 best-selling novel on Etsy the year of its release. It did well on Amazon too. Totally nails the dark side of the woke agenda. FYI, a lot of foul language, adult situations, alternative lifestyle stuff in here. But man, will it open your eyes. All right, well, with all that said, I want to thank each of you who sent in a story for me to read today for our wonderful, wonderful audience. I want to thank you, our wonderful, wonderful audience, for whom, if it were not for, put the word "for" in the wrong place, whatever, I wouldn't be here. My family and I wouldn't be living the dream. I wouldn't have such a problem with income taxes that I'm literally thinking about cutting my income in half this year on purpose just to be able to keep more of what I make instead of sending more to the government. All right, so if you have a story that you want us to share, send it. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. Don't waste your time or mine sending me links to other YouTube videos. I don't even watch them. I want your stories, your true stories, or the true stories to people that are close to you, like the first storyteller here, Sheila, shared a story that happened with her husband. All right, crazylake@mail.com. Take care of yourselves out there. Be alert. Be vigilant. There's lunatics everywhere. Not just in this book. Listen, some of them might be living right next door to you. Okay? So keep your eyes and ears open. Your heads on a swivel. Be safe, folks. See you for more next time.